So hi everyone, thanks again for joining us today, and thank you Ben for speaking. It's great to have you. So Ben Thompson is a consultant and project manager from Ottawa, Canada, and has been relied upon by some of North America's leading companies and government organizations over the past 2 decades. Ben also loves to help young people grow into confident and competent business leaders. As someone who has continuously supported and mentored university leaders since his own graduation, Ben has a knack for giving students the boost they need to excel in student life and on to fulfilling and impactful careers. Ben is passionate about nurturing the potential of each person and believes an executive track career is within reach of the teachable. Thanks again for presenting today, and good luck.
All right, thanks so much for the introduction, Alex. And I also just want to say a quick thank you to Mark and Rachel from torontojobs.ca for hosting this event and inviting me here to participate. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Thompson. I'm the founder and career coach at careerlaunchsystem.com. I help university students and recent grads to launch executive track careers and help with their university to career transformation. I also own a boutique management consulting company with expertise in project management and business transformation. So today I'm going to share with you how to launch an executive track career plus 3 tips to stand out from the crowd. And I'll also share a little bit of advice from a couple of my colleagues who have excelled in their own careers. And for the go-getters out there, I'll even give you a few action items. So, first things first, why are you here? Maybe some of you are here because you just want to get a job, but I hope most of you are here because you want to have a career. And if you're attending this session, it's probably because the topic is appealing to you. You'd like to get off to a great start in your career and get on that executive track. You want to have a future where you can climb that career ladder and enjoy the prestige, the financial rewards, and the opportunity to do challenging and impactful work. But it needs to be said that to climb the ladder, it will depend on your performance on the job and your ability to deliver results for your employer. But at this point in your life, that probably doesn't matter a whole lot to you right now. What you'd really like to do is to find the right career ladder for you and be able to grab that bottom rung and hold on to it long enough to know if you want to start climbing or pivot to a different career path entirely. So this presentation is focused on grabbing that bottom rung of the career ladder, and I think that's what most of you are here for. I remember when I was in university, I had big dreams. As a student, I thought, okay, there are 2 career paths that I could potentially take. The first one was entrepreneurial. I really wanted to have my own company to do meaningful work and make a lot of money. The second was a path to become a jet set executive and leading company growth around the world. But when I graduated, I was completely broke. I had no money, and to start a company and be an entrepreneur, well, being an entrepreneur is pretty daunting if you have no cushion to fall back on. And when it came to my vision of being a jet set executive, there was a huge gap. I had no idea or strategy about how to get there. And frankly, it was just some vague fantasy. I had an international business degree, but I didn't have any specialization like accounting or something like that could get me a foot in the door. But even worse, I didn't have a list of target companies, let alone know anything about them. I didn't know about different career paths and which ones I could excel at. And of course, I didn't know and let alone have access to the entry points for those companies. So I ask you, do you have a dream or a fantasy? And to me, a dream job is one with a real title, with a real company name, and to make that dream attainable, you know the plan to get there. And without those 3 things, you're believing in a fantasy job. And I guess that's my first piece of advice if you hope to launch an executive track career. So write this down on a full-size sheet of paper: job title, company name, and plan to get there. And you may not be able to fill in the blanks completely yet, but this is your first action item, and you have to start somewhere. So do this, post it on the wall behind your computer, and so that you can see it every day. And I'm even going to give you a deadline. It's August 31st. If you need some accountability, and everybody does, send me a message on LinkedIn and take a photo of it, send it to me. I'd love to see it. And if there's anything I can do to help you get there, I'm happy to help. Now, the hardest thing about that action item may be identifying the plan to get there. After all, a dream without a plan is just a fantasy. We could spend the rest of the session on goal setting, but if you put some thought into this, you'll already be ahead of your peers. And even though I may not have known what my dream job was, somehow I did manage to grab onto that proverbial bottom rung of the career ladder. Firstly, I made it a priority to get some professional summer work experience, and co-op is also fantastic. In fact, coming out of high school, I worked in a car factory making pretty decent money for a student. But instead of going back to the factory for my second summer, I made it a priority and managed to land a job building a database in the federal government, despite being paid less, in fact. Secondly, I took on a leadership role at a volunteer student organization called AIESEC, AIESEC, organizing international internship exchanges. And thirdly, I made a somewhat shrewd calculation that it was better for me to do well academically than to have a part-time job during school. And so this was motivated by scholarships and also the marketability of a high GPA. So having these three bases covered sends a really strong signal to potential employers. And as a consequence, for me, these things combined into a very marketable story and resume, and also a network that proved to be the clinching factor in grabbing that bottom rung. So this is a good opportunity to interject tip number one and tip number two to stand out from the crowd. When I was job hunting as a recent grad, I went to campus recruiting night for Accenture. It was a consulting company. And coincidentally, someone who graduated a couple years ahead of me, whom I had befriended in AIESEC, the volunteer organization, they were already working for Accenture and was one of the people there at the campus recruiting night to represent the company. So after the presentation was over, we found each other in the crowd, and she introduced me to the lead recruiter with a glowing endorsement. And that recruiter proceeded to do an on-the-spot screening interview with me. And then I was invited for some more interviews, and within the week, I was hired. So without question, based on my story, and I'm sure most recruiters will tell you, if you want to stand out from the crowd, be introduced and endorsed by somebody who already works for that company. Now, if somebody who already works there endorses you, the recruiter and hiring manager will pay extra attention when reviewing your resume, and you'll probably at least get an interview. So this means your network is incredibly valuable. It's one of the best ways to get within reach of that bottom rung of the ladder. Networking tends to be a challenge for most people. We could devote an entirely separate session to networking, and I think, in fact, there is today. But because we're short on time, all I'll say about this for now is get out there, get involved in stuff you'll enjoy doing, build relationships, and be the kind of person that people want to work with. And tip number two to stand out from the crowd, based on my experience and others whom I've witnessed over the years, is to take on leadership roles and deliver results for a volunteer organization. And I'm giving you four reasons. why this will help you stand out from the crowd. And there are many more. But first, as I mentioned, if I had not been a part of ISEC, I would not have known the person who recommended me to the recruiter. So being a part of a volunteer organization, it expanded my network serendipitously. Second, you've demonstrated initiative and probably a growth mindset simply by participating, but especially if you've taken on a leadership role. And third, every volunteer leadership experience is different. So it helps you to have a really unique and memorable story. And when you actually get to the interview, it should be able to provide you lots of examples to share when you're having a conversation with the interviewer and answering questions. And finally, fourth, this is probably the biggest driver to help you stand out. Taking on volunteer leadership role implies that you've developed some soft skills and leadership skills. And employers will value this experience because you've probably learned how to work well in teams, prioritize your time, and have a base level of soft skills and leadership skills that will allow you to contribute effectively on the job. So I remember back when I was a student and I was asked to participate as the youth voice at an employability skills forum hosted by the Conference Board of Canada. And that's when I first heard the phrase, hire the attitude and train the skill. And I believe it's still relevant today. With the right soft skills, you'll be able to perform well in pretty much any situation you're thrown into. So if you're interviewing against your peers and all else being equal, they'll probably hire the person who they think has the better soft skills like leadership, teamwork, negotiation, positive attitude, creativity, empathy, and the list goes on. To drive this point home, a 2019 study found that 3/4 of employers have a hard time finding graduates with the soft skills their companies need. And given this presentation is about how to launch an executive track career, having leadership experience is exceptionally important. Further, Fortune 500 CEOs suggest that 75% of long-term job success resulted from soft skills and only 25% from technical skills. So to me, it's pretty clear that unless you have some kind of extraordinary internship or side business, the best way to start developing these skills and to stand out is to take on a leadership role for a volunteer organization. And if you have other suggestions, I'm happy to hear how you've gone about getting those leadership experiences. This brings me to a really important concept when it comes to understanding a bias that employers have when determining who gets to grab that bottom rung of the ladder and who gets to climb the ladder. I wrote a blog post about this that goes a lot deeper than what I can cover today, but you can view it on my website or LinkedIn profile. When I was being trained as a new manager to interview candidates, the trainer said something that's stuck with me until now. She said, past performance is the best predictor of future performance. Now, the implication seems pretty clear from a new hire and recruiting perspective, that if you've been consistently awesome in the past, you'll probably continue to be consistently awesome. If you've demonstrated an ability to overcome hardship or thrive in situations of ambiguity, you're more likely to be able to do it again. And employers expect continuity between your past and your future, from your university to your career. Now, I don't believe that someone should be overlooked for a position they may, in fact, excel at. But I do believe anyone can course correct over time and become a top performer. The reality is, though, whatever has kept you from peak performance, there may be someone else, gunning for that top spot on the starting team who's been able to perform more consistently at the top of their game. And if you're trying to obtain, a high-paying job or a highly sought-after career such as consulting, there is usually high-quality competition. So what does this mean for you? It probably depends a bit on where you are now. If you're a recent grad or in your final year of university, you may realize that you haven't been at the top of your game. On the contrary, if you have been a high performer, you'll have a good story to tell and you'll be at an advantage. If you're in your first or your second year, knowing this now can be a tremendous advantage by the time you graduate. The important thing is to know that your future performance will become your past performance. And I want you to know that I believe average performance in the past does not have to mean an inevitability of average performance in the future. But if you take stock now to elevate your career game, then this goes back to what I said about creating your plan. You can improve your trajectory and take advantage of more fulfilling career opportunities and a higher income sooner. Many of you will become managers and executives later in your career, but you can accelerate that if you build your habits sooner. So if you want to change some things in your life, well, you'll have to change some things in your life. And I believe that all starts with habits, and this brings us to action item number 2. If you change your habits, you change your life, and then you can get on a better trajectory. And that's why I recommend Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this is a must read. I just can't cover it in the few minutes that I have. Just read it. It'll be the best $15 you invest in your career. And you know what? I'll suggest that this is due by September 5th, before school starts and you get bogged down in school stuff. And if anybody's interested, I'll facilitate a free book club discussion about putting these habits into practice. And we'll do that in the second week of September. Just ping me after this session on Hopin or on LinkedIn and tell me you're interested in joining and we'll set it up. Now, the other thing to realize, especially as a student, is you don't know what you don't know. And by accumulating knowledge, just like earning interest, it compounds daily and it grows over time. So be consistently reading and upskilling your hard and soft skills. Learn about various companies and industries and career paths. You'll need to find resources to grow your career. Every university has a career center and offers some kind of career search support. It's usually available to recent grads as well. And there are a ton of blogs out there, YouTube videos, those can help too. Importantly, seek out mentors. Seek out mentors you look up to and you respect. And finally, be willing to invest in coaching to ensure you have all your bases covered and get personalized support so you can capture the opportunities available to you. So, speaking as a coach, I use the word invest intentionally. When I was a student, I was presented with the opportunity to work with a career coach, but I didn't take it because I thought, too expensive. And I thought, I can do it on my own. And eventually I did do it on my own at the expense of being unemployed for several months, which was far greater than the cost of the career coach, who would have easily paid for itself many times over, assuming he would have helped me get hired sooner. So, being unemployed and being underemployed is in fact expensive. If I had looked at it as an investment, I could have saved, a significant amount of time being unemployed and probably started with a higher salary and even a more suitable position. So investing in a good coach can make all the difference. There's so much more I'd love to share, helping you explore why you'd want to become an executive, what career path is right for you, finding that intersection between your strengths and the opportunities available to you. But there's one key point I want to make, and that is you own your career. have an owner mentality, and you own your career, and you'll get out of it what you put into it. When I think about people who succeeded coming out of university and who have gone on to rise the corporate ladder quickly, they're typically the people that bring zest and curiosity to whatever they do, and they owned their careers. Now, in preparing for this presentation, I asked a couple of well-qualified friends their perspectives, and I'd just like to share a bit of what they said with you. So my friend Eric was the HR director for Accenture Canada, and he also became the global HR director for Accenture's corporate functions, and so he had a very, very successful corporate career. Now he's the assistant dean at Georgetown's MBA Career Center. So if you don't mind, I'll just read my question to him and his response. So I asked him, for students who successfully grab that first rung of the career ladder and then move on to an executive career, what foundations from their university years helped to set their trajectory? And he responded by saying, well, some of it is natural wiring. Were they a leader? Did they take on volunteer roles? Were they curious? Did they travel, learn languages, take extra courses? Were they academically excellent? Did they give back to others? And he continued, other basic skills are writing, speaking, being organized, problem solving, getting along with diverse teams. And finally, he said, the interpersonal skills are often what MBA employers want more than technical skills. Now, my friend Anne graduated in 2010 from Carleton University, and she became a senior manager at Deloitte in 9 years. And so that's quite an impressive climb. And here's what she had to say. I asked her, so now that you're a senior manager, what do you wish undergrads knew that could better prepare them for an executive track career? And she said, the road to becoming an executive takes hard work, trust, and how you build relationships. She says, hard work is pretty straightforward. Bring your A game regardless of the task, and always show up, take ownership, give 100%. You need to earn trust. If people trust you, they will help you. And finally, she says, as an undergrad, you can develop a lot of these qualities in how you show up to group projects, part-time jobs, and any volunteer work you do. So there you have some amazing advice from two amazing people. All right, and I'll continue on. I promised you a third tip to stand out from the crowd, and here it is. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Is that one tip or three tips? I don't know. I don't just mean prepare for interviews, although that is incredibly important. I mean, taking ownership of your career is something that you proactively focus on every day. Your preparation is like one long continuous journey that never ends, which means that it doesn't start and end when you need a job. It's part of your daily life and part of your habits. Chris Hadfield, Canadian astronaut, says, no astronaut launches into space with fingers crossed. That's not how we deal with risk. So preparation is about de-risking your future to ensure success. Everyone loves to see that rocket blasting off into space, but we often neglect to appreciate the preparation that goes into the launch. So I hope you take the launch of your career just as seriously and think of your preparation as a career launch system akin to a space launch system. And to prompt your preparation effort, here's action item number 3. Take action. This means put the action items on your to-do list and the due dates in your calendar. Write down your dream job, your high-level plan, read the 7 Habits book, and also find out what campus recruiting events are coming up at your university and put those in your calendar. This action is due today. And all actions, all your time should be focused. As part of the career launch system I developed, everything I teach my students revolves around 3 things: engaging in success activities, improving personal care and growth, and performing strategic applications. It's all part of a 7-section program, all mapped to those 3 things. So in the interest of time, let's move on so I can summarize what I've shared with you. There were several axioms, so here they are again. First, you own your career. Second, employers are willing to hire the attitude and train the skill. Third, past performance is typically the best predictor of future performance. And today's performance becomes your past performance. So start managing your trajectory today and building those good habits. Fourth, you don't know what you don't know. So become a sponge and just soak up as much learning as you possibly can, and don't be afraid to get help. Those 3 tips that I shared: first, be referred by someone from your network. Second, take on leadership roles and deliver results for a volunteer organization. So this means go get yourself some practical experience to work on your soft skills. And third, prepare, prepare, prepare. All right. And finally, those 3 action items I gave you, and I'm offering to provide some accountability for you if you'd like it. First, by the end of the month, you should have written down your dream job title, company name, and a basic plan to get there. And you can send a picture of it to me, and I'll see if I can do anything to help you make it happen. Second, before Labor Day and school starts and you get bogged down, read those 7 habits of highly effective people. Ping me, let me know if you're interested in doing a book review and with me and your peers. And after you get off this call today, put those first 2 in your calendar and do some research into the campus recruiting events at your university. So that's all I have time for today. I'm happy to take a few questions. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you send me your resume in the next 48 hours, I'm happy to schedule a time to do a verbal review with you. And if you'd like to have a personal strategy session with me before the end of the month, just ping me and we'll get it scheduled. I'm happy to take some questions now. Just checking the chat. All right. Thanks so much, Angelique. Okay. Who else is out there? Any questions? Don't be shy. Okay, let's check the poll I made. What year of university are you in? Do we have any results for this poll? Did anybody participate in the poll? I don't see any results. I'm not sure if anybody voted in the poll. Oh, there we go. They're starting to come through now. Okay, so 4 already graduated, 1 first or second year, and we have 1 MBA or master's. Nobody out there in 3rd or 4th year, at least nobody that's responded to the poll. Oh, there's another one already graduated. What's your biggest challenge? Does anybody have a big challenge that they've experienced out there? You just put it in the chat, or I don't know if you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Okay, well, Mark or Alex, I guess if nobody has any questions. Oh, sorry, there's one. Shihab Roshan. How do you compromise with average grades from law school? if the requirement for the job is to have exceptional grades? So, great question. I mean, not everybody can have grades at the top of the class, right? For certain jobs, what I call this is table stakes. For certain jobs, there's a minimum bar that you have to exceed. And anybody that kind of, so let's say an A- average, and anybody that gets higher than an A- average, then the employer will look to see what the other differentiating factors are. Anybody that gets a higher than an A- average is probably a very competent individual academically. So then they'll start looking at, your soft skills and your extracurricular activities, and how well that you would fit into the law firm or whichever. So they're the table stakes, where it's like, this is the minimum bar that you need to exceed to be considered for any particular job. So employers would be looking for that, and then you differentiate yourself by the other things. Does that answer your question? All right, awesome. Thank you, Shehab. Okay, there's another question, anonymous. What do you think is most important for someone going into their first year of post-secondary school? All right, this is an awesome question, because when you go into your first year of university, there can be so many distractions and things that aren't necessarily healthy for you that you may get involved in, and you'll be exposed to them during Frosh Week if they're still doing Frosh Week. Maybe this year Frosh Week will be toned down a little bit, but yeah, you're going to be exposed to a lot of different new people and people who like to have fun in different ways. So I won't get into that, but it'll be key for you to be able to say no to some things, and find the circles that are going to be healthy for you. So in my Frosh Week, I was exposed to several different opportunities to get involved in, the finance club or the entrepreneur club. I was really looking to get involved in something, and ISEC was one of those student organizations that presented to our cohort during Frosh Week, and I thought, this sounds fantastic. I can help run international internship exchanges and get some leadership experience, go to conferences. And I just fell in love with the idea of that organization, that particular organization. For everybody, it'll be something different, but as well, the person in particular that I met, who was the president of that organization at the time, I just clicked and bonded with him pretty much immediately, and we became best friends. And several years later, he was the best man at my wedding. So I absolutely endorse, getting involved in those extracurriculars early, saying no to certain behaviors that you'll be exposed to. So I'm not saying don't have fun, but set your limits and stay focused. So then you can still do well academically. If you've got a part-time job, you can still do your part-time job well. And as Anne said, show up. Right? For everything that you do, make sure you show up and do it as best as you possibly can. Does that help answer your question a little bit? Whoever asked that question anonymously in the Q&A? All right, awesome. Thanks for asking the question. Okay, are there any other questions out there? Or should we call it a day and go back to the stage? Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm going to leave the session. Feel free to please get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet you, hear your story, and see if there's any way I can help. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the next session, the panel of experts that they're hosting back on the stage. So, all right, thanks everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Have fun.